All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to thank Pastor Lane for allowing us to use this space today. This is our fourth of 8 town hall meetings. This is our fourth one. So I appreciate you all coming out. We want your questions, your concerns. I'm going to ask Pastor Lane to open with a word of prayer, and then we'll get started.
Gracious Eternal Father, we want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to arrive safely in your house of prayer one more time. Father, I thank you for the gathering of the minds, the unity that is in this place. Father, continuously allow our mayor to lead and guide us in the way that you will have her to lead and guide this great city of Michigan City. Protect all leadership, protect all officers, protect all the units that keep this great city great. We thank you now in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So I will tell you a little bit about what we've done. I know they passed around some cards and for you to fill out, but it's been very informal. I'd like to thank y'all for cookies and water. That's a treat because we ain't been doing that, but that's good. So, but what I will say is that it's been very informal. We have our department heads that are here to help answer any questions that you might have. There's no question that is too big, too small. We're here to answer any question that you have. If there's something we can't answer, we'll get you the answer for it at another time. But the goal is to hear from you. The forms that you have there, please fill them out. If you don't want to speak, or raise your hand, you can just fill it out. We'll collect the cards and we'll read the cards and answer the questions. I'll give you a couple of updates though. I know that we've had a couple of shootings here. Recently, I know at Washington Park, there was a shooting Sunday. And I know it's gonna be amped up, police, it's one thing. So I was at a conference, U.S. Conference of Mayors, and it was something that went like this. You got two things, people who don't like change and people don't like the way it is, and you can't win for losing sometimes. I will say that the goal, number one, is to protect everyone. I asked the chiefs to make sure that we had amped up patrolling at the beach. We don't want anyone out there shooting, especially. And again, it was an isolated incident, but again, in a public space. And that is not what Michigan City represents. And we can be better. We need to be better. Also, I want to give a shout out to the young people. When I say young people, I'm talking 30s, 40s, 50s. On Sunday, Monday, we woke up to, trash on the west side. And, when I went over there were people that were already picking up the garbage. I had a conversation. I said, look, they were like, we had a good time. I said, listen, you need to, if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you're being responsible. And they understood that. And before you know it, you had 50 of them out there. I went to a meeting, and by the time I came back, everything was clean. It'd be nice if they did it in real time, but that didn't happen. But again, I know they're planning to do something. I know Will reached out to them. There was no incidents. Police, the police rode through and was like, hey, they have a good time. They ain't bothering nobody. And they cleaned up their mess. When I went over there, I said, look, I need y'all to pimp the whole parking lot. I need y'all to pimp this inside of this park, and I need y'all to get all this glass up. And we're gonna go get the street sweeper to come through and pick up the rest. And within an hour, it was done. And I commend them for being responsible after the fact, but we need to make sure that we're diligent, especially we got the parade coming up this week, and make sure people pick up after themselves. Because we know that we have a dumping issue, and we have some other issues that are going on. And I will say this, even with that, a lot of it, the 98% of our residents are doing the right thing. it's the 2% or those outsiders, and I'm gonna call them outsiders, that are really the culprits of a lot of the garbage, the dumping piece of it. We just gotta be, more aware, but I say report it. You can call the non-emergency number if you see somebody dumping. Get a license plate, we will go after them and cite them. So it's important that we need your help with that. So I do want to introduce, before we get to questions, introduce some of our folks that I can't see everybody, but if you're a department head, if you would stand please so that people can see who's here. So we have folks from, you see our police officers, but you see our code enforcement, our central maintenance, fire, HR, attorney, IT, our cemetery. Dominique Edwards is our newest addition. She's our new planning director. Chris from the water department, Chris and Chris, sanitary refuse. And then we have our council people. I see Councilman Dabney, Councilman Tillman, Councilman Greg Coulter, former Councilman Gene Simmons. I see Kelly from my office. See the engineer. Okay, so we have a full slate of folks. And I see other folks from our departments too, from cemetery. So we're here to answer questions, not just, I could talk all day. And I think I'm funny too, so I won't do no jokes, but if you got questions that you want to ask, this is your time to do it. We got three more of these for the rest of the year. And I do want to say the next one is at the DAV in August. We got one at New Hope, one at the Fire Admin Center, and the last one at City Hall. We're trying to hit all areas of the city to make sure we're accessible. Everybody don't want to come to City Hall. We did launch our new website, and so if you have an issue too, if you contact any of those departments, it hits everybody in the department. It doesn't just hit one person. So if you hit the mayor's office, you got a complaint, it'll go to me, Kelly, and Isabel. Somebody will get it. So we just want to make sure that. I got one last update, and hopefully in a couple of months, I'll have a better update on it. But I know that Jeff from the cemetery and Roxanne, they're going through a, I'm going to say technology upgrade, where at some point in time with the cemetery, you'll be able to enter your person's, your loved one's information on the screen, and you'll be able to look up where they're located. You don't have to, look through paperwork and all that. So we're trying to use technology to help with alleviating some of the time constraints and things like that, but hopefully that'll be sometime soon. And we have 14 interns that are working for us this summer doing things for us, so hopefully they'll be a help. So I'll start taking cards. If you need a card, let us know. We'll pass them out, but I'll just open the floor up for questions. Okay, so this is, and this is a good one. This is for code enforcement, calling about abandoned cars and vehicles. I know that Captain Greg Jesse he's over our traffic division. We have a list of abandoned cars and vehicles. I do believe that there is a process, and let me talk about code enforcement for a brief minute. DeMarcus just got promoted, so he's over our code enforcement team now. So anytime a citation is given to someone, that's a legal instrument, and there's a process. So let's say, for instance, somebody emptied out a house and or left a bunch of stuff, and we go to cite them. There's an abatement period. So, and many times you have to give notice to people to fix the issue. before we can go in and fix it unless it's a health matter. I know that we had someone that emptied out a house near a school and the kids were going through it, saw it as a health issue.
I know.
You know, a matter of public health and safety. They got cited a couple of grand. Typically, the abatement period is what, 10 days? 10 days. 10 days. So we cite you, we gotta wait 10 days technically before we can go pick it up. And I'm trying to get to the point where we can pick it up the same day and just charge them for it. I don't care. In my opinion, it's a matter of public health and safety when people are dumping. And, you know, I just want to make sure, so we will follow up with you on this one, because it sounds like we have an email address that there's some abandoned cars and vehicles, because there is a ordinance or a citation. I know that I've called before, and you guys ticket it, I think, and then it has to wait so many days, and then after that, we can tow it, because it's an abandoned vehicle. So if you got campers, trailers, cars that are abandoned, that's what's gonna happen. And I'll make sure you get the information, Marcus, and we follow up with the police on that one. What other questions?
I live in front of Pullman's Field. My name is Glenda Farrell.
Yes.
And do they have a curfew? Because usually they come out, kids come out, maybe about 10:30 at night. They stay until 10 o'clock.
Parks are supposed to be closed at 11 or
They
12?
stayed this Saturday night. They came out and stayed about 2 o'clock.
So what I've asked the police to do is to do more runs around the water tower. And this is what it is. Y'all can say, take it for what it is. There are certain parks that have people coming in after 10 o'clock, hanging out after they leave somewhere, and they're hanging out and gathering. That's a doozy. I used to, you know, we used to hang out on the west side when I was younger, at the good corner. I don't know what else to call it. And it's true. We didn't have anything to do at that age. We weren't bothering nobody. But I will say the parks closed at 10 o'clock in some cases, and I think 11, maybe at the beach sometimes. So there's no curfew though. There's no set curfew that we've enacted in the city. There have been curfews before, but the park is supposed to be closed at that time.
They be all out in the street.
Well, they were out until to 3 o'clock in the morning the other day. So that's something we got to deal with and figure out, because it's that's a nuisance. That's what that is. And again, we didn't receive any phone calls outside of, you know, again, we just need to make sure we follow the rules, but we need to let the public know. And I don't know, outside of that, it was a large gathering. It was. It was like a family reunion, so.
And they know how to do it. They wait, when we call the police, when they see the police, they usually turn back up and they face in my house and I don't have to use no lights. The lights is all in my house. I can just walk around. And when the police come, then they cut the music down.
Okay,
So that's how that works.
all right. Duly noted. South Shore noise ordinance, blowing its horn through 10th and 11th Street. Is there a time when they can't blow their horns? Tim, I saw the city engineer. Yeah, because I thought,
The South Shore tracks are all within the city of Mission City, a quiet zone as far as railroad operations. We did the dividers on all the roads and kept the gates and all the crossings and everything, which is an approved Federal Rail Administration quiet zone now for blowing horn. That doesn't eliminate the railroad's availability to blow their horns. If the engineer sees something and wants to, he can still start blowing the horn through towns. But
that's typically in case of,
somebody approaching the tracks or a vehicle too close to the crossing gates or something. I mean, like the car that was hit this last Friday. And They
That's
did
right.
blow a horn, and that's kind of the result. I just talked with Mike Nolan and Skylar today, and we're gonna look at alternatives of having gates come down on both sides of 11th Street approach and departure, so that somebody can't make that left-hand turn when the north-south lights are red and the east-west street goes green. The green lights turn on, so.
So I'll repeat that, just in case you can hear. So I know there was a vehicle accident, this past week, and, so had a meeting with, NICD to talk about, you know, improvements that can be made so that people can't turn. I know that there was an issue with the lights being on at that time as well, so, more to come on that. Is South Shore planning on buying more homes along the tracks? I have not heard that whatsoever. Does the city have grants for residential cameras for city residents in high crime areas? This is something we've explored once before. We don't have that, but maybe, Kelly, we can look back. There, at one time, we were looking at some way to do rain and provide maybe, we worked before, it was with the Urban League. They paid for the installation of the ring cameras. And from that, several Michigan City residents were participants in that. Maybe that's something we can look at doing again. But it was for, that was for seniors and particularly for that. So we'll have to follow up and see if that's something we can look at or invest in. Yes.
I actually, two things, can I follow up with
Yes.
the plan about the railroad stuff, right? So NICD passenger, but the freight service, right? Because I used to have a place over there right off of 11th and Cedar. And the freight guy, I know it's by their choice, FRA regulations, by their choice. They can do it anytime they want, but they don't have to. But freight's different, because South Shore Freight is not at NICD, right?
If they're using the South Shore track.
That dude is hard on his horn.
Yeah, if they're using the South Shore track, it's
So
still.
can you send that information to them?
So that's not
Tim?
NICD, that's the
It's,
freight operations.
it's still all under the same quiet zone for the track.
Sure, it's regulation, I
Yeah,
get that.
if the South Shore Freight is operating on those tracks, they
That's the dude that's
they
laying
have
there
the
2 o'clock in the
ability
morning.
to not run with their horn.
I know him, but
Yeah.
I don't know him
So,
personally.
yeah, I mean, that's-
So, Tim,
I'm sure
can
there's a lot of
you-
engineers.
As an answer to that, Tim, can you send something to Nicole
Yeah,
Yeah.
and let her know that we got a problem with South Shore Freight laying on their horn? You said you had a second
Yeah, so
question.
the other thing is, on my way up here, I said, I'm Pleasant Bike Ride, you know, my bike. You'll see it when you walk outside, there's no parking sign. There's no bike ride. But the main thing is, can I just get a commitment from city people to like, for quality of life issues, to improve and find new alternatives to bike routing this town or bike laning this town? Okay, because the white lines, nobody can see them. And coming up here at the South Shore tracks in Vale and Poplar, and then once again, I almost got clipped in the back tire by somebody turning a corner, and because I got pinched on the railroads with no bike lane, I had somebody riding right on my butt. And then I ended up riding on the sidewalk, which I shouldn't be doing on a bike. And there's a very kind gentleman about 2 blocks here that stepped aside, and I gave him peace signs and thanks. So this is a quality of life issue I'm running into all the time.
Oh, I agree with you, and as a matter of fact, we met about that this morning. So, I actually finished it. I need your approval.
Thank you.
But I just completed a Safe Streets for All grant for $250,000.
So what?
Safe Streets for All. It's a grant through the Department of Transportation, and bike lanes were included.
Right, and then the way the bike lanes, obviously, in the Midwest are
Yeah.
constructed are important, because white lines get scraped off every,
Yeah, well, that's a whole thing. I
yeah.
saw someone else with the hand right here.
I wonder if they can clarify it. So the train that is on Tryon by Eastwood,
Yeah.
that's a freight?
That's not, maybe, that's, is that the one that comes across, that's
yeah,
CSX.
that's,
Yeah, that's CSX.
We get that horn all the time.
Now, let me say this about quiet zones, because everybody wants one. Let me tell you, the short distance of our quiet zone cost us $1.5 million just to do the quiet zone portion of that. So, I don't know if you recall, you know, there was this is years ago, even though they didn't ask our opinion, but when they cut up over by Amesfield and Eastport, they cut all our streets in half. That was to kind of alleviate, from a safety perspective, close down some of the streets so that they won't have to have gates and people run it. The quiet zone is not like a cheap thing. It's $500,000 just to engineer it before you even begin to, implement it. So there is a cost. Because I know I received a complaint from someone near Woodland, that whole area, because those tracks are bad anyway. They were talking about the horn blowing. Yeah, to do through the city on CSX, even if they were even remotely interested in doing it, we're talking multi-million dollars to do it. It's just what it is. Yes, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy Golovic, 1316 Ohio Street. Since we're over in Eastport, can you give us an update on the Singing Sands housing project at 8th and Michigan Boulevard, where whoever signed property used to be?
Yeah, so, I know Skylar isn't here. I think, Singing. So 8th and Michigan Boulevard, that's a workforce housing, apartment complex, project. Don't have a whole lot. I actually met with them Monday. Part of that is Ready Dollars. That's part of it. And we're going through a program through the federal government for matching dollars. If the development is within a half a mile of the train station, it's eligible for additional funding. So right now, we're working through some things with the state for some tax credits. So that's a slow go. That one is slow going because of that. The funding stack is taking longer. Yes, sir.
Hi, John Carrington. You may have addressed this already, but I know it's not your jurisdiction, but that train crossing at Woodland south of Greenwood,
That's the thing.
it's treacherous.
It's
There's
bad.
gaps in the road.
It's bad. Do we have any updates at all, Tim?
Lots and lots of emails and phone calls to them and no response from Federal Rail, from CSX, and from other groups in that.
Well, we had 2 people that showed up from Young's office that I didn't know. So we have contacts with them now.
I don't know if Tim was on his email when he reached out this week.
Okay.
It was like next step.
Okay, so we do have the new contacts for both Senator Young's and Banks' office now. So, again, just keep at it. But one thing I will say, if you're having any damage to your vehicles or whatever, what I'm gonna encourage y'all to do is send something or give something to the mayor's office, and we can start submitting that to them. Because let's say for instance on the highway, you hit a pothole and you catch a flat tire. If you're the first person, you're just out of luck. It happened to me. But if you report it continuously, they will reimburse you. You can turn in a claim. So maybe we need to start, gathering enough data so that we can provide them how many cars are being damaged by it. Because we can keep telling them that is happening, but maybe we should start showing some costs and, people start turning in insurance claims. Maybe we'll get a little different answer.
I just stopped using it. I use Tilden and everything else now.
Yes, Tim.
Yeah, last year CSX did, a lot of you remember the work going through town, they did do all of the crossing replacements, Tilden was done a few years ago, all the way through town, except Woodland. It was on the list to do. The material for the improvement was left here by the side of the tracks, the bolts and the pieces and everything were there all over the winter. For whatever reason, as they were going crossing by crossing, they skipped Woodland. CSX is such a large organization, I think it just kind of got lost in their paperwork, and when you get upstairs in CSX, they thought it was done and it's not. That's what I think has happened, just based on the crickets that I'm getting and contacting the guys down below.
They think they did it and they didn't do it.
Right. Since the materials dropped off, they thought it's done.
Yes.
On the block of 11th and Oak Street, since you guys done cut off several streets into South Shore product, Oak Street is one of the streets that's the open street, but there are no sidewalks. It's in the Marsh School District, all the way from 11th Street, all the way until Marsh. Children are walking in the streets. And on 11th and Oak, 11th and Oak, there's a stop sign coming north, but there's no stop sign going south. And so also we have daycare on that corner, transmission, like I said, if anybody. But there's daycare on that corner as well, but there are no sidewalks on either side. And the going south on Oak Street, crossing the track, like I said, there's no stop sign and cars just zoom through. And there are children playing. So between South Shore and the Mayor, I don't know if we can implement some sidewalks. I don't know what the process is and what it costs. Or
Yeah,
You can take a look at it.
I'll take a look at that
Can I
area.
add to Pastor Lane's comment about that? That's in the Marsh School District, right? So
Right.
there's also a concern, because there's only one school bus that services Marsh School. And so it's theater capacity, and that's a walking school.
right.
So not only is the, the concern there that Pastor Lane is speaking of, but we also have students that are not bused that have to walk to Marsh.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of streets that don't have four ways, they just yield, you're right. So you can take a look at, there's a couple of streets over there, but look at that crossing as well, and then see if we need to add some signage
Yeah.
or add a four-way.
And I'll look at the right of way the rest of the way down and see if we can get sidewalks in there, what it's gonna
Yeah,
cost.
we got a little bit of
Fences and
sidewalk.
whatever in the way.
Yes, ma'am.
Dolores Scott, 1604 East 8th Street, Michigan City. Two things. First, we're all talking about train tracks. There is a track on, and right now it's shut, on Springland Avenue. It's not a travel track, like, but they
Near
go along.
Woodland, the one like Gray Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they usually park a lot of trains over there. And at real weird times, they get out, go across and sit there for 2 hours to change or whatever. I know my way around and other people do now too, so we get around that part. But the track is very poor. And you almost, if you're gonna go around it from your right, you almost, like on the track, you know what I'm saying? And because it's so bad. And I noticed that they did put some, not concrete,
Asphalt.
thank you very much, in some of the holes that were there. But, come on, they need to really look at that. That's a track that
That's
they,
South Shore Free.
That's South Shore Freight.
Well-
Well, we have a contact with South Shore Freight, so we can definitely follow up on
there's
that.
they're not the only train that's there. There's a whole bunch of them that park.
But they own that track.
Okay, all right, just so you know, because somebody is gonna come through there one night, I could just see it and just hit it, and then you can't, once you hit those things, and you're talking about that steel, you are not gonna stop. You're gonna have a problem. Second thing, I live at 1604 East 8th Street, near Memorial Park, Liberty Trail area. Okay. Last year, unfortunately, we had a home that caught fire, kind of kitty corner from me, and I would tell you the address, except the numbers are no longer on the house.
Okay.
This little bit kitty corner from me is between kind of a green house that they have and a gray house. Okay. It was yellow at one time. Thing is, since then, they've torn off so much of the siding. You see the black paper. It looks positively horrendous. There is enough weeds in there to put a crop of farm in there. It's that bad. No bragging, but hey,
Right.
for me, my neighbors also, it isn't just me, but it's all of them. We are out there weekly, daily sometimes, trying to keep the lawns up, keep the properties up. It's a very nice area.
Is it vacant? It's vacant?
Yeah, it's totally.
You know
I'm
the
sorry.
properties, Marcus?
1527 P. Sayers.
Okay, is that a abated property?
It's not, it caught fire and the homeowners did fill out permits to get it rehabbed and just pretty much with the insurance money took it and ran.
All right, so have we cited them?
We have,
So they've been cited. So we're working through that process.
Okay, when if something like gets to the point that it's done, what happens during that? You know what I mean? What do you do? What's the process?
Everybody want to answer that?
Tear it down?
We condemn them.
Yeah, you can demo, that's what I was just gonna say, that it has to initiate from the planning and inspection departments, the orders to demo.
Because only we just condemned 2 properties this weekend. But it's a process. It don't happen overnight. That's the only problem. You have to follow the process because if you don't, we end up starting over. But that one
I
is,
can understand the process and I can understand.
but it has been.
Tasked with it, but it's been a year. And, you know, we live in an area, we have a lot of animals. We have hot foxes, we've got deer that come in and they eat all the, all the flowers and on and on. And there's other animals that, because there's a lot of woods that run through there. And that's not really a good place for them to congregate. Yeah. Plus, you know, deers are full of ticks also. And it's a very bad year for that type of thing also.
I don't know.
Just an FYI on that.
So we have that one on our list. So that one has been cited and it's going through the process. So we'll give an update at one of the future town halls if they're not, I'll just get your information.
Thank you.
We give you an update. Yes, sir.
How you doing? I got a question. My name is Leon Woodard. I hear y'all talking about the railroad stuff, but we got a bigger problem than that. What we gonna do about our kids here?
I understand.
I mean, I do a lot of riding around here, and our kids ain't got nowhere to go. And we close that park at 10, 11 o'clock. And that park never used to be closed, because we did have somewhere to hang out. And these kids ain't got nowhere to hang out. Some of these parents are poor. I'm gonna tell the truth, they poor. And they don't pay attention to their kids, and that's why kids bang up everywhere. And they ain't got nothing else to do. I mean, what happened to our summer jobs? We should have summer jobs for the kids to teach them how to get a job, or want to work. You know,
Well,
that stuff did help.
I agree. And I will say there's more to do than there has been. But one thing, it costs money. It does. And I had to be in at 11 o'clock, you know, when I got to become a teenager. But what I will say is it takes all organizations. There's more programs now than we've ever had. So I'm not sure about someone shooting at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, how I can stop that as the mayor. I'm just saying, if somebody's shooting at 12 or 1 o'clock, what am I supposed to do with that? I'm supposed to give them something to do at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, when they're 15 and 16 and 17? That's not, that is a problem. That is a problem. But it's gonna take someone, just like the young people who are, you know, bringing midnight basketball back, you know, we're helping to fund that. But again, everybody don't play basketball. So they're trying to figure out other things that they can offer during that time. That's only on Sundays though, because that's all they can afford to do. Because it takes manpower. You know, I used to say this, because I donate a lot of my time. And if you don't have volunteers to help with it, we can't complain when we ain't got people stepping up to the plate to help us through some of this stuff. Because I can't police away things, and it costs money. You know, volunteers are one thing, they're free, but most people want to be paid. They want to be paid. So we have an internship program. We've been working through a senior program. We hire seniors. We're doing that now through Work One. So we're adding opportunities and trying to do that. I'm looking at a work for labor, you know, day labor program. We're doing one out of Philadelphia. You know, so I'm looking at different creative ways to do that, but I have to go get the money to do it too. So this is the first time we're being proactive and trying to figure out something for them to do. And my thing is, I'd rather give it to organizations who are doing it and let them help us, because our money is being cut. If y'all watched anything that happened downstate, our budget is being cut. The school system and the city. I know for a fact right off the top, I lost $1 million. So, this budget cycle is gonna be tight. Riverboat money, we used to get anywhere from $12, $14 million. We're down to $8 million. So, it's what it is, but we're figuring it out. But it's engagement, it's people. It's getting people in the neighborhoods to be out and doing more. And me trying to help supply them the money to do it. Someone comes up with a great program and y'all gonna have police out there and you're gonna be out there until 11 o'clock at night, tell me how much it costs. Don't just, if you need $3,000 and we need to keep lights on out there or something, tell me how much it costs. I just don't have the bandwidth to have department heads out there. But if the community is willing to step up and do something like that and you need some funding, let me know. If it's viable, I'm down for it. I'm down for it. If you got something, hey, you tell me what it is, I'll find the organization and run it through and we'll make it happen. That's where I'm at this point, because we need all hands on deck. Before I get you, Ms. Bridget, yes, Pastor?
Yeah. Switching gears, but you know what? Let me address that right quick. Before this administration, two administrations before you, Ron Mayer made a comment at a time when we asked that same question over 8 years ago. What are we going to do about our youth? He made a statement. It hurt, it stung, but it was the truth. His statement was, because we were saying, well, what are we going to do with our children, especially in the African American community, because it seems like they're running wild and don't have anything to do. He said these words. He said the African American community have 2 facilities that is predominantly given or is accessible to them. What are you guys doing with them? Hope, King Center. And he said, what are you guys doing with them, right? So that means he put the responsibility back on the African American community. If you have 2 accessible facilities, what are you doing with them? So as the mayor is saying, if we come up with the programs, if we come up with security, if we come up with a plan, we should do our best with coming up with some money. So that means as African Americans, we got to do better with our children. That's that. But I want to switch gears. TIP money for the Eastport. Are there any redevelopment monies or grants for homeowners in the Eastport area? Because the Eastport area is kind of getting a little dilapidated.
Well, Eastport is going to change, and when I say that, so TIF. So let me say this: we took over Michigan Boulevard from the state, and I'll come back to you, in 2010 or 2011. But we did not put a mechanism in to develop Eastport. So we take over the state road. You don't put a way for anybody to develop anything. So what you end up with, typically, pawn shops, liquor stores, and churches. That's typical, right? And when you go back, Michigan Boulevard, I grew up one street over, so I grew up on Edward Street, by the Walker Street Playground. And we had dry cleaners, grocery stores, Walgreens, two grocery stores. Yeah, you had all that. You had anything you needed, bakery, whatever. So I was on the redevelopment commission prior to taking on the mayorship, and one of the last things that I did was to ensure that Michigan Boulevard got put in a TIF. That was one of the last things I did, because Michigan Boulevard has been disinvested in for a long time. And it's hard when you've allowed that to happen for 20 years. It takes time. So we have given out some facade grants on Michigan Boulevard. So we've had 2 businesses so far. We're trying to walk them through. If there's a business on the boulevard, you're providing, there's funding for them now to get reimbursed. We had the daycare, I can't remember the other business that did it. But now we're trying to go to all the businesses, sharing that information with them. You are now able to get a facade grant that's for businesses. For residential, couple of things for residential homes. And I'm just gonna be honest, we haven't done a good job of it. So we are working through a couple of things. Now that Dominique is on board, Dr. Dominique is on board, that we're trying to figure out, we did set aside some money for home maintenance repair. But there's a couple of buckets, and we need to figure out a program so that you come fill out one application, and now you have the urban enterprise zone, you have the CDBG, we have some ARPA money, but we don't have a good way for people to access the application to figure out what they're eligible for. We send them on a wild goose chase when they come in the building. They come over here, well, they told me to come over here, and they told me to go over here. That's a problem. If I'm trying to get help or emergency help and I gotta run all over the building, that's a problem. So that's one of the things that we're working through, because we have about $180,000, I believe, in our housing money that's still accessible, but we gotta come up with a program. But you still got Urban Enterprise Association and CDBG, for emergency home repairs. I know that we're doing a CDBG week. We have some interns and Dr. Edwards. They put together a pamphlet. We're trying to make people know what the programs are. We've been hiding the programs, quite frankly, and it should be accessible. We get that money every year, and hardly nobody knows what it is, or nobody can get the questions answered, and we're trying to make sure that we push that information out. So they're printing out material, we'll give it to all the churches, so that everybody knows, what's available to them. Because there's a couple of programs, there's emergency home repair, there's weatherization, there's a couple of things. And again, we've just done a poor job, over time. And we've been getting this money for decades. Okay? We've been getting this money for decades. That money is also used, CDBG money is used to do the playgrounds. Water Tower Park was a part of the CDBG. Pullman Field was part of the CDBG. But also people were getting their furnaces replaced and things like that. That's CDBG money.
What is the acronym? What's the acronym for that?
Community Development Block Grant. It's a federal program. Write your Congress people and your senators, they're trying to take it away.
Everything else.
But again, those are programs that are important for a community like ours. We're an entitlement community, and that's why we get this money every year, to about $600,000. And it's a plan that has different pieces to it. So some goes to this, some goes to that, some goes to utility assistance, different things like that, local community organizations. So, but we want to do something different. We want to make sure that people know what they can have access to, and we just haven't done that. But that information has been compiled. The brochure looks good, so we're gonna get those printed and sent to all the churches so that people know what they're eligible for. Yes, sir.
So I have a couple of questions. One is community relations and law enforcement. Recently what I've noticed is there's been an increase in engagement of law enforcement and our youth in a very positive fashion. And so I wanted to know if the local government had plans on increasing those programs where our law enforcement officers that are going out into the community and engaging with our youth, that will change the perspectives and the ideology that a lot of our youth have about law enforcement officers that's negative. But with good community relations and engaging with the youth, as I've seen these three have been doing quite a bit of, are there any plans for the city to just pour into that as it pertains to our youth, which is also an avenue that will give youth something to do? And also improve the relations between the youth and law enforcement, which will also foster the positive relations between the parents and law enforcement. Because that I see, as I've been paying attention over the past 18 years that I've been involved of things in this community. It's a charming town, you know. But does the local government, one, have plans on pouring into those actions because you can kill multiple birds with that one stone?
That's all we've been doing.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Right, yeah.
That's coming because that's what I expect.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Like with breakfast with a.
we keep, you know, right now we're doing treats, you know, cold treats with the police, and so we're trying different things. Right now, it's just really between Will and the police department and Jillian, Captain Jillian, she is now our community engagement officer. That's all it is, you know. Ice cream with the police, you know, pizza with the police. I mean, that's stuff that we're doing more of. We even have, and people don't realize this, a lot of our younger officers, you know, they went to school with my kids. I had someone talking about, oh, we ain't got no Michigan City. These kids graduated from Michigan City High School that are working for the police department now. More now than ever. Now, there was a time period where we were getting mostly people from out of town. We were. But a lot of these kids, and just because they may be white, doesn't mean they didn't graduate from Michigan City High School. These kids went to school with my kids. And so it's beautiful to see somebody posting at one of the apartment complex with our young officers playing with the kids. And the kids know the police officers. So things are changing. Things are changing. And I think our police officers do a wonderful job. Our younger ones, especially. They have stepped up in many ways where they have reacted to situations sometimes differently than some of our more senior ones. I listened to my brother. He's a sheriff's deputy in Orlando. And they rough. I mean, he was like, I definitely want to handle it that way. And I'm like, that's why, thank God you ain't on this. I let you go. I'm trying to strong arm people. But they do a great job. They try again. You know, I got one of the officers. I had his younger brother in one of my sessions over at AK Smith Center, and again, I think they're starting to really embrace the police differently. I'm trying to get all the departments out doing different things now and volunteering. It's not just about the police, it's about all the city departments. That's the expectation from me, is that you're gonna participate in community events. We're gonna do stuff, we're gonna show up. It's not just gonna be law enforcement or the fire department. It's gonna be everybody. And I expect that from them. It's a professional development moment for them to be active and doing something. I've also encouraged them to join boards, you know, and you know, they got to be engaged. They got to get to know people. Can't just go to work and go home, you know, especially if you're on salary. I'm just like, oh no.
So
Yes.
The second question I have is that the poverty level here in Michigan City is more than a national average.
Mm-hmm.
And the population here is shrinking.
It's growing.
Well,
It is growing, yeah.
Just like, you know,
well, that's what
with the census.
Right. So my point is, are there any plans for the city to take some of the homes that have been abandoned? You know, you got this aggressive process where you're being real assertive about the abatement and homeowners that have abandoned their homes, things of that sort. But taking some of those properties and turning them into scattered sites for low-income housing to address that. You know, I know there's funding there for that, but that can also be an avenue where you can really aggressively target the low-income earners here so that they will have other options of residency. And also, there's a lot of billboards, multiple per square mile. And so with advertising, this engagement with your department heads and your law enforcement officers, utilizing some of those billboards so that the community actually know that these things are going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
And man, did I give you those questions in advance? So thank you for those questions, because I got an answer. So I'll start with the last one, the billboards. So had a conversation. We are looking at billboards. We actually owned some that came down and looking for ways to, I didn't know they were like $200,000 to get like the electronic billboards. I had no idea. Because I would like one coming into the city. And I would like a nice one at City Hall, but they are expensive. Didn't know they were that expensive until we priced them. Because I want that. I had it priced, looking at figuring out a way to do it. I don't know how we do it. So we are looking at signage. So I know we're going to be doing some new signage throughout the city with the new logo and some other things. But I think communication and how we get the information out, we're still trying to figure that out, because we have like 5 generations right now, and everybody does their communications differently. I would love to have a new billboard. We took one down, but the price to get that, it's a pricey, it's a hefty price tag. When I first came into office, we had it priced out as about 120 G's. So, yeah, it's expensive. But as far as low-income housing, there's a couple of things. We need all types of housing. Scatter site, we actually took a group around. They're out of Indianapolis. They do duplex, triplex, modular, but they don't look modular. I went and did a tour of the plant. They hire re-entry program felons that re-enter into the workforce, and they actually build the modular homes, and then they deliver them. And so we were looking at some scattered sites here. Skylar took them to look at a couple of sites that could be a good opportunity, but also working with, on the west side, there was, their churches own property. We did get a grant to work with churches that own property to help with the development of those sites. We're working through a process with one now for some units, for like 45 units that could be used for elderly and intergenerational. So we are doing those things right now. But again, you have to put those things in place to do it. We did get the money to start that process, and we did. We got it. Last year we got awarded through the Lilly Foundation to work through that. So that's happening. Just working through getting some of the tax credits for it. So with affordable housing, we're eligible for state tax credits and some federal credits. And again, it's a process. And the Housing Authority, let me bring this up too. I know they're getting ready to start maintenance on Mary Hill. Well, what is it called now?
Lakeland Estates.
Lakeland Estates. And she's got her first year under her belt, but they have a lot more, they have quite a bit of power if they used it. There's a lot of money that's available through HUD that may go away eventually, that we're trying to figure out how do we capture it, because I think there's an opportunity for us with the scatter sites. There's a couple of cities, I was talking to Mayor Rod in Elkhart. They have a process where they work with the county on these sites. They have like this pool, and they have a group of developers that can bid on these homes, but it has to go back into affordable housing. So there's a lot of programs. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to go steal somebody's idea and figure out how we implement it here. So we're looking at all those different things. It's just a matter of, we have a lot of projects going on at the same time. And a lot of housing units that are coming online within the next 3 years. We're looking at, we're looking at over 3,000 units. That's a lot for a city that hasn't had housing, new development. So the goal is to work with nonprofits and to support them financially. If we need to do the site development to help them through the process so that they can actually do it. They're experts. City's not, we don't build houses. We don't build houses. But we can help somebody else build some houses. So that's the goal. That's really the goal. Yes, Reverend.
Reverend Michael Page, 1804 East Mission Boulevard, Michigan City, Indiana, member of Zion Hill Baptist Church. My question is, I hear the economic echo money. We need funds. We need money. Who holds our money? Who governs our money in this community? The banks. Everybody's here. The police department, the planning department, the police chief is here. I think some fire department people here. We got the Blue Bloods here. Police. Amen. And we need, not making fun. Yeah. The banks in this community, what do the banks do to help the community except to hold our money? I mean, we're talking about economics. What are the banks doing? Are the banks partnering, trying to get matching funds from the federal government, trying to put together funds from other banks? We got a lot of people in the United States that got a lot of money. It's a big, beautiful bill saying give them some more, but you have a lot of philanthropy. What do the banks do to bring money in to help people in the community? They have a responsibility, it's a fiduciary responsibility to help the community. But I don't see anybody here from the banking sector. Everybody in here has a bank account, I believe. If we're dealing with the business world, we have to deal with the bank. So where is the bank? I mean, the box is guarding the hen house. I mean, what's going on? We need the banks to be involved in the community here because without us, they can't exist. And without them, we can't exist.
That is a great question. I will invite them to the next one because it's just open to the public. But that is a great question. One of the things that I brought up to our controllers was I want to diversify where our money goes. It shouldn't be in one bank account. Maybe we'll get more money for them to support some projects that we want. So we're probably going to put an RFP out to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck as well. So that is a thing. Yes, Chris.
Actually, it's kind of funny you brought that up because a couple of years ago I went to a thing at the in Chicago with the Fed. We were talking about it was talking about lead service line replacement. Unfortunately, Michigan City doesn't have this issue like Chicago, Milwaukee, places like that. But one of the things they did bring up is that depending on the size of the bank, some banks actually are required by federal law to supply a certain amount of money back into the communities for community projects. So the question is then, figuring out exactly what that requirement is for the banks that are local. But there is some requirement from the federal government, or the Fed, I should say.
It's the community, the CRA, and what has happened though, the banks have gotten to the point where they've gotten so big and they've been gobbling up other banks that their territory has gotten so big that before you had small town community banks that were going to contribute to the small town community thing. And then you grow and you grow and you grow and then you lose sight sometimes, and now you got to spread your money across 3-4 states but that's a great question, and I will definitely share that with all of the banks, your question, because I would love for them to match some dollars for some projects that we want to get done. Yes, and then yes.
Can I just say something real quick about the banks? if you go to, events like dinners and, things to raise money. Let me just take an example, like Boys and Girls Club. They have their annual, dinner every year, okay? So that's to help raise money for their program. Now, for example, most nonprofits, okay, do go to banks for sponsorship, and businesses as well. Don't get me wrong, because a lot of them have dollars within their budget that, contribute to the community, and they do it through sponsorship. I mean, they'll just flip it out there, believe me.
And I'll give you an example. I mean, Horizon Bank is headquartered here. They give out a lot of money. I will say, last year, so we gave out the $115,000. Of that $115,000 that went to all those 23 youth groups, 25,000 of that was from Horizon Bank. So
That's the only reason I'm saying that, excuse me.
that's a big amount. That's a big amount.
Yeah, it is. This is considerable dollars just for one bank. But the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of times things like that, the sponsorship and buying tables, kind of go under the radar. So it's good to know that a lot of those things do take place. But you kind of gotta be in touch with the people who are putting these things on to know maybe what it is, who's giving it, and how much it costs to get a ticket. Michigan is a real wealthy area, and it takes if you're going to a dinner now, when I used to do sponsorships, $50 was a whole lot of money, okay? And I noticed that there's one for buying a ticket now that isn't $100 plus. Your sponsorship for 10 people used to be $1,000. You're almost at $2,000 now for what I see. So I'm just saying, don't think that those things don't happen. It's good to be brought up, but I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that some of that does go on. There are good things that happen through some of these different businesses in there.
And I agree with that. I think though Reverend, and I agree with this too, but we have to figure out how not to we need to see money that is directly into the playgrounds, parks, and programs too. And I think we've gotten so, you have to be a nonprofit, there's a lot of rules around giving money. And I think that might be one of the hurdles. Churches now are all nonprofits, so they can actually, Horizon Bank, NIPSCO, they all have an application process. I used to give away the money at NIPSCO, so I know people come ask and I did the approvals and I would give money out. But you had to be a nonprofit, you had to be a church, it had to be for a program. But now they have even more stricter rules, so there is money available.
You have to be a 501c3. That's a designation.
Or a church.
For most nonprofits too now. Unless they changed it in the last few years. But I'm just saying, you have to have that. There's no way around it. You want to get the money.
All right. And then I got you.
With the cuts that the school system is getting ready to take, that first year cut is what, almost $1 million?
Less than ours.
Yeah, it's less than the city. So what is there anything that city of Michigan City can do to fight?
I was down there a lot. I testified down there.
I'm one of the ones that could potentially be affected by this because, been in the school system 24 years. And I think that, I'll probably be the first one they get rid of because, I make 2 cents more than what the poverty level is. And so, it's a concern to me with all the cuts that are coming down for the, for that 5-year period. What can we do?
I was down there, I met with so many legislators. I spent so much time down there that No, now they know me by name. That's that girl from Michigan City. But all we can do is fight and talk about it, because one thing that was pretty evident is that 70% of our population lives in cities, right? But only 30% of our legislators in the state of Indiana live in cities. They live in rural, unincorporated areas. So they're passing legislation based on what they know. And it's really deteriorating and impacting our cities, our schools. Think about it. You cut how many kids can get daycare vouchers, but you increase the amount of money somebody can make to get a private school voucher. So you can make $220,000 plus, and you can get a voucher for your kid to go to private school, but if you make over a certain amount of money, you can't get a voucher no more for daycare. So,
That's true.
you know, so it's unfortunate. I don't even know how else to say it. It's unfortunate for us as a city. I have to look for additional revenues to cover the shortfall. That's why we've been spending our time in our permitting, making sure that we have new software, that we're able to be faster. You know, at the end of the year last year, you know, we had a stack. It's ridiculous. Stacks of paper. I was like, bring everything in the room. I'm tired of this, you know. We bring it all in the room. Kelly's sitting there, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I said, you know, we came up, our attorney, she created a letter while I was in there talking crazy. Created a letter. We sent that letter out in December and collected like $35,000 in the last week and a half, 2 weeks of the year. And some of that stuff has been sent since March, May of last year, and it's December. And that's a broken process. It's a process broken long before I got there, but it's broken nonetheless. So we're trying to fix that. But also these people that, you know, Marcus, he knows, he'll have people put stuff out and say, well, he'll stop them. Oh, I'm just gonna put it out, because see, they ain't gonna charge me, they ain't gonna do nothing. And I'm like, okay, y'all got the wrong one. That's changing. We need the revenues. We can't keep breaking the backs of our employees, our equipment, and people thinking, you know, everything is free. And a lot of people that are bringing stuff are dumping from, you know, oh man, just drop your stuff off over in Michigan City. We got people from Elkhart, all different places. Just bringing their stuff here because they know it's free. Free. So we are really, you know, looking at cameras, how we can do that. We're still looking at, you know, ways to offer dump sites for residents. But a lot of times you don't have to be a resident to be able to use these services once we figure it out. So that's where we're at. Yes, ma'am.
Any updates in the Marquette Mall?
Marquette Mall, yeah. I can't say a whole lot, but I know it's sold. We were hoping to be able to say more, but we can't. But it's sold, and it's sold to a local hometown organization, Town and Blank. So there's going to be some opportunities that happen, and we're excited about it. So that's all I can say about it. Yeah.
So you were talking about 3,000 new residents. Does that help some of your shortfall to gather permit fees?
Yes.
Because I know a lot of the suburbs live on permit fees.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, permits, our numbers are up. Our revenues are up for permits. Michigan City's gonna be okay next year, I believe. Our permits are up. Our software is more streamlined to get more permits in the door. So that is happening. But we were just so inefficient in how we were handling it.
And then the Tryon Road subdivision.
Yeah.
What's the status of that?
I don't know when they're breaking ground. Is it this year?
I'm not sure of the schedule yet.
Trying
It's moving ahead.
It is moving ahead, just like the Moore, off the Moore Road. But I think Tryon Meadows, they passed up, they've already gone through the planning commission. They've gone through all the proper hurdles for that development. I saw one more hand before I get back to you. I saw somebody over here today. Yes, ma'am.
I got a question. You know, for the homeless,
Yes.
for the homeless, you got, is there a way you can help the homeless that's out here?
In what way?
Like, make like a building, like some of these buildings that then make it where they got somewhere to go when they're not sleeping on the street.
So homelessness is a priority for me. So we just had a committee, it was 30 of us, 30 mayors from across the state. We met the first week in June. There's a couple of things. One of the things that Bloomington, for instance, she has a great comprehensive plan around homelessness because 38% of the people in Bloomington aren't from Bloomington or the region. And one of the things that I think is important, when you support homelessness and people know where to go, I'm just going to say this, and I know for a fact, and they can be mad if you're watching this video, I know people stick people on the trains and send them to Michigan City. And from South Bend and from the West. And from other areas, they drop them off. And you can talk to the shelters and you'll know that a lot of these people are not Michigan City residents or LaPorte County residents even. And what Bloomington does, they have a reunification program. They got some money, grant, and basically they do case management with the homeless. But they also have an empathetic relationship where they have encampments. They send somebody out there. We have Jocelyn, our social worker. Anytime we have a situation, Jocelyn participates. And we sent Jocelyn, we sent Kane and Kelly to a conference specifically on homelessness. I think we need a day program. That's my opinion. I think I would like to get something like that. But reunification is, if someone's here and homeless and we start talking to them, we tell them, you ain't a resident, we're gonna work with you 10 days, but we're gonna give you a ticket back home. And the goal is to get them back to their family. They said you double the chance of them getting out of homelessness if you reunify them with family members. So I'm trying to use the data and statistics to help us come up with a better solution. I don't like people getting kicked out, and then have to walk and roam all day. I don't like that. I don't think it's, number one, it's not a good image, but I don't think it's, that's not being caring for people that live in their city. And so we have to figure out a way to build a community for them, because if you build a community and you build trust with them, they're more likely to get help. So still kind of working through that. I don't know if I'm getting that to someone. Did I get, I drafted some stuff to that. So still working through that. Did you have something?
No, I have discussed how we would like to see a day program work, so I know that we've got that in works. Housing is something that I get a lot. People need, when people are seeking low-income housing or are concerned about homeless people, a lot of them wind up at the mayor's office, and I work with them. I'm very closely with Jocelyn, so I do want to let you know that your mayor's office is involved. We do care. I always run it by a mayor. What we do run into at times are people who are just not receptive to that. Some people do not want the assistance. We're aware of the encampments that have been out there. We've gone out there. Our police have been out there. We work with who's now the PATH program, the NEST, Citizens Concerned for the Homeless. A lot of times, it's a lifestyle choice as well. So I just don't want you to think, or when you see panhandlers, I know a lot of people are concerned about the lady that's kind of in the Meyer, AMC area. Just she chooses to go there. No one's making her do that. So we are aware, we do go out, we make those contacts, but I want to reiterate, like, we're out there doing this, okay?
Also, we've had a couple of situations where we've had to, the city has helped shelter people for a couple of days here and there for extenuating circumstances that arise. And I tell you why. We were trying to help a young lady, her kids, and I went to get an update, found out she OD'd in for her kids. And last year, at the end of the year, and let me say this. We had to shut down the hotel, on the south end of town. And, those things are gut wrenching when you deal with them. But also, that's the only place where people had to go, right? So I try not to judge, circumstances and situations. I just try to help figure out a solution, and we look for resources the best way we can. So our office, that's what we do. That's her job all day. People are coming in because I lost my house. We have a lot of landlords selling their houses, letting people know that they got less than 30 days to get out. So those are extenuating circumstances. You may have been a good renter, a tenant, and I'm like, I'm selling my house, I'm out of here. What do they do if they haven't built credit or don't have banking? So we are empathetic to those situations, and we try to connect them with the right people. That's what we do. My prayer and my hope is, now that the Housing Authority is, rehabbing some of these units again, I'm going to encourage them to make sure they're Michigan City residents, because at one point in time, and I knew this because I used to be a landlord, you get vouchers from out of the area, their vouchers are worth more. The Section 8 vouchers are worth more from other cities, and they just transfer them in. And, I want to make sure that you get Michigan City residents in better housing, so that is the thing. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I want to ask you about, I've got a grandson, and he has been in prison. He went in for 4 years and got a felony, put it like that. But he wants to get his own place. He can't find anything. He's staying with me, and he's a good kid. He's been working with FedEx for 4 years, and still nobody will give him a place. And I think this is wrong, that once you do your time, you should be free to do, anything in the city, get a place or something. And
I haven't heard that. You need to, so you're saying like apartment complexes and stuff?
No, I'm just saying, the people that won't rent the house to him.
Okay.
Period. And it's a lot more that, I've heard it from. But he's 34 or 5 or something. But anyway, he just want to get out on his own, because he's working and everything. He's a good kid. I won't help praise it. But at any rate, he made a mistake. But this mistake has cost him, seem like, the rest of his life, But to me, a felon, one can be a president of this country.
Hey, we need to run for better chance than what's in there. Amen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is my concern. It's about businesses that are in residential areas, and they're boarded up, the grass is overgrown and everything. What can be done about that?
I kind of spoke about that earlier, so abatement. So, those businesses report to our office for code enforcement. And again, we'll cite them and then we have to go through the process. Yeah, we have to go through the process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just ask one quick question.
Yes.
I had heard somebody say earlier about the painting of the street. We had a house sale right next door to me, and the fellow said, he moved here from South Bend. He said, I noticed you don't really paint your streets here much, and the paint's worn off. Is there a grant that's coming to, because like on the corner of Woodland and Cool Spring, for example, there's no arrows left. You can't see anything. Cool Spring and Franklin, you have no idea what's the left turn lane or what's the right turn lane. And it's just all the bike paths, everything's just all worn off on the boulevard. And I'm just wondering, is there a grant coming for
There's
this?
money. We have to do some striping. We just had this conversation. I had the same question comment come up with coffee with the seniors. They said they talked about the paint striping as well. So Sean came in. We talked about, we're gonna have to contract out where the money's gonna come from and figuring that out. I don't know about the striping machine right now.
I think it's been repaired.
Because it's been down.
Oh, okay.
So, that's what happens when you just don't take care of the equipment.
I know no money for repairs. I've heard that.
Yeah, so we, but I think we're gonna contract some of that out. So, because there's striping that needs to be done at multiple locations, even throughout town. And some of it, for the streets that we paved, had to wait till the weather broke. It rained so much, it just seemed like it took forever for the rain to stop. So that's another thing. This time.
Tommy Claude, 1316 Ohio Street. I have a question, just a public service announcement for the people about the vacant houses, the ones that rent. The county will be having another tax sale on October 9th. The list will be out about 30 days before the sale. There's usually about a couple hundred parcels right here in the city. Here's that chance to get that young adult out of your house.
So also up with striping, because that we did discuss it. I discussed it with Sean. We were trying to figure out. We didn't have. I don't think we have. I don't think we budgeted for the striping in professional services this year. So we need to figure out where that's going to come from.
Did you say Michigan City took over the boulevard from the state?
Back in 2010.
Really?
Yeah, it does. Yes, ma'am.
Seems kind of rough liquor.
Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to, every now and then to have a policeman come down the street, because we have too many speeders going in there. There's some of them doing 50 miles an hour.
On Walker Street?
And that's just too much.
On Walker Street?
Holiday.
Holiday. You're on the holiday. Okay. You got that, Marty? We're in, and then we heard about drag racing this past week. So we're looking at some speed bumps, and putting some speed bumps in, because that's dangerous. Well, thank you all for coming. Any other questions before we wrap up? Well, let me say this. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the questions. If you still have more questions, yes, we got one.
Yes. My name is Alice Bennett. I live at Manfred Williams Michigan Boulevard. What I'm talking about is our alley. Our alley is horrible.
Ooh, the alleys. You mean as far as craters?
Yes. Yes.
I'll have to put that on the list. I have no idea about the alleys.
We can't use any developed black grant for alleys, but we'll need to come up with some program for resurfacing and maintaining the alleys.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up, because I wouldn't have thought about it.
There's some alleys that haven't ever been paved.
So again, so I will take that under advisement. I know how to reach you. So but if you have something that you want to ask, but you didn't want to ask it out loud, fill out the cards, fill out the information. We are gonna start trying to, push the information out to people if you have an email address. Fill it out, we'll take it. And again, we hope to see you at the next one. The next one is August 27th. I'm hoping to be there. August 27th at 5:30 p.m. at the DAB on Ohio Street. And again, I appreciate you all coming out. You got department heads, and you got people here in the building, so if you have any questions, don't talk to me, talk to them, don't explain. But no, again, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to the next one. If you have any questions, you know how to reach us.